You won't believe the video that just set the internet on fire. Fantasia Barrino, yes, the same American Idol winner who once had to borrow just $50 to chase her dream, is back in headlines. But this time, it's not for her voice. It's for a heartfelt back-to-school video that's breaking the internet. What looked like a simple clip of her 8-year-old son, Dallas, dressed in a black shirt, cargo shorts, and his tiny face mask has gone viral. But the reason why might shock you. Behind that innocent smile and tiny backpack lies a deeper story of strength, struggle, and a mother's love that refuses to quit. Stay with us, because what started as a sweet moment has turned into a powerful reminder of how far Fantasia has come and why the world still can't stop watching her. But let me tell you, this wasn't just a proud mom moment. That short clip of Fantasia's son, quietly standing with his backpack, held a storm of pain, resilience, and silent victory. Behind his innocent smile was the weight of a mother's journey few can truly grasp. It wasn't just a school day, it was a symbol, a silent scream of survival. That simple video said more about Fantasia's life than any tabloid ever could. It was quiet, it was powerful, and it shook those who understood. Because years before this peaceful morning ever happened, Fantasia was just a teenage girl in North Carolina, pregnant, at 17, alone, broke, and bruised by life. At 19, she was living in the rough neighborhoods of High Point, struggling to feed her child, scraping together what little she could. The world knew her as a star. But before the fame, before the spotlight, she was fighting battles that would have broken most. That video wasn't just about going back to school, it was about finally making it out of the storm. She didn't even have enough money for petrol to get to the American Idol audition. To take the opportunity, she had to borrow $50. At that point, destiny took a surprising turn. She had the opportunity of a lifetime. Thanks to that borrowed money, she won the entire season in addition to passing the auditions. Almost immediately, Fantasia rose to fame. But not everything was resolved by celebrity. It presented greater difficulties than anyone had anticipated. Fantasia had to balance her profession as a public figure with being a single mother. The pressure was enormous. She was attempting to protect her reputation, care for her family, and stave off gossip. Things became even more difficult once she gave birth to Dallas, her second child. Antoine Cook, Dallas's father, was already embroiled in a scandal that the public was unable to ignore. His name was connected to an affair that almost destroyed Fantasia's reputation. People accused her of ending a marriage, questioned her morals, and passed judgment on her. During that period, she was largely silent, but the harm had already been done. She then said that she felt helpless and attempted suicide. Her life, career, and motherhood all nearly ended in that moment. However, things start to become interesting at this point. Fantasia refused to allow her failure define who she was. She picked herself up instead. She authored her autobiography called Life Is Not a Fairy Tale, produced new music, and even acted in a film based on her life. She made her way back slowly. The man who would help her change everything, Kendall Taylor, then arrived. For her kids, particularly Dallas, he took on the role of a father figure. He was seen gently settling into the front seat of the automobile in the back-to-school film, and one moment said it all. A full-circle voyage was depicted. Born into controversy and confusion, the boy was now beginning school in a peaceful, loving, and supportive manner. This was more than a simple drop-off at school. It was evidence that Fantasia had turned her life around. Years of quiet conflicts, inner turmoil, and recovery occurred that morning. Nevertheless, there were still others who managed to condemn her. They claimed she uploaded the video to gain influence and attention. The most absurd thing, though, is that she didn't say a single word in the video. It was self-evident. It was believed that Fantasia was finally living out her fantasy. Peace after years of suffering, a lovely family, and a tale of redemption. This is the startling part, though. There were still open wounds from that quiet time with her son. Fantasia had made great strides, but they weren't smooth or straightforward. Dallas was deeply scarred by the drama involving his father, Antoine Cook. When Cook's wife accused Fantasia of ending their marriage years earlier, she was thrown into a legal quagmire. The headlines were harsh. She remained mute about much of it, but others referred to her as a homewrecker. She was viewed as a lady who made poor decisions, rather than as an artist or a mother. The extent to which that impacted her mental health was unknown to the general public. She claimed that she no longer felt valuable or that her life had purpose. She eventually overdosed and almost died as a result of that. It was more than a call for assistance. Her life was at its lowest point, but when Kendall Taylor entered her life, fate took yet another surprising turn. Kendall was also not flawless. Although he had his own history and struggles, he was unique. Instead of seeing Fantasia as the media had portrayed her, he recognized her for who she truly was. They created something solid gradually. He did more than simply wed her. He aided in her recovery. Above all, he supported her kids as a true father would. It was finally stable for Dallas, the infant born in the midst of the upheaval. And for that reason, the back-to-school film was so impactful. It was more than a minor detail to see Kendall in the front seat. It demonstrated that Fantasia never gave up on life, love, or motherhood. The internet can be nasty though. The incident that moved so many people also sparked a backlash. The footage was referred to as staged by some. Some claimed it was too well made to be authentic. Why share such a personal experience online? They did what they requested. Consider why now. Let me clarify though that this was not about flaunting. This has to do with declaring victory. Fantasia had every right to enjoy a typical day after everything that had happened to her, because normal is a miracle to someone who nearly didn't make it. That video featured a woman who had battled her way back to happiness, a stable partnership, and a healthy child. It was more than simply likes. It was evidence of survival. This story is unique, since it wasn't written from a position of perfection. It was from the bottom of the world. Rebuilding has always been central to Fantasia's narrative. Her pain was not concealed. Through it, she sung. Her songs, such as Bittersweet and Lose to Win, were more than just successes. They were admissions from real life. Every note and every phrase originated from the depths of the soul. Years later, a simple film of a mother seeing her son go for school silently caught that same sentiment. However, things become even more intriguing at this point. Some brought up the past once more, but the majority of people enjoyed her moment. Media headlines, court documents, and old interviews began to circulate online. People questioned whether she ever reconciled with Antoine Cook. They were curious as to whether her kid Dallas would comprehend the drama he was born into as he grew up. The most absurd aspect is that Fantasia continues to move on, despite the controversy being brought up by everyone else. She does not dispute or provide an explanation. She just lives. Perhaps that is her greatest triumph to date. Fans couldn't stop talking as soon as they saw the video of Dallas getting into the automobile. Everyone had a question, whether they were curious or emotional. How did Fantasia so effectively change the course of her story? To tell you the truth, it wasn't merely luck. Fantasia's life had been a protracted struggle with her background, herself, and how other people perceived her. She didn't simply get up once. She had to get up repeatedly, after being knocked down more forcefully each time. Fantasia concentrated on safeguarding her children, who were the most important thing to her. Once the controversy around Antoine Cook had subsided from the news, her children were her greatest blessing. She constantly claimed her children were her purpose for living, regardless of how her profession progressed. For her, Dallas in particular came to represent hope. He became her light throughout her darkest moments, despite being born amid chaos. My children are my children, and my music is my blessing, Fantasia previously stated in an interview, and I want to be good to both. It was more than just a quote. She had promised herself those things. This is the startling part though. Fantasia had to battle for peace despite her success and affection. The music business had evolved. There were up-and-coming artists. While some dismissed her as washed up, others chose to forget about her. The youthful American Idol victor was no longer her. She has a history as a lady. Additionally, people in the entertainment industry never forget your past. The school video struck a different chord because of this. It didn't cry out for notice. Something more potent was whispered. I survived. She didn't require lavish costumes, pricey settings, or theatrical monologues. A simple, everyday moment said volumes. However, the way Fantasia handled all the chaos is what sets this tale apart. The majority of people in her situation would have retaliated by issuing remarks and clapping back on social media. Fantasia, however, made a different decision. She opted for calm, healing, and quiet, and the noise was amplified by that silence. One thing was demonstrated by the fact that she was able to broadcast a serene family video and still have it go viral. People continued to follow her, cheer for her, and become enthralled with her trip. However, things start to become interesting at this point. Some began to see the wider picture, while the majority were still reacting to the footage. They remarked on Dallas's assurance, security, and happiness. something that is not merely a coincidence. It occurs when a youngster is safeguarded and loved. It occurs when a mother gives up her peace of mind, job, and reputation in order to establish something secure. That was the true accomplishment of Fantasia, not the recognition or the honors, but that very moment when her kid bravely entered a new school year. The most absurd aspect is that Fantasia never sought recognition. She did not describe the incident. She made no attempt to be popular. She simply shared the video online, allowing everyone to experience it as she did, without the use of words. That is maybe the most potent kind of storytelling. Only a car door opening, a mother, a child, and years of survival behind it. People began to look more closely when the dust settled over that straightforward video. A third grader starting school wasn't the only thing at stake here. It told the story of a woman who kept her family together despite having to go through flames. Fantasia did not simply live. She changed. She transformed criticism into insight, grief into fortitude, and debate into development. This is the startling part, though. Some individuals still attempt to use her past to define her today. They continue to bring up the public errors, the overdose, the court cases, and the scandals. However, they overlook the bigger picture. They don't see the mending, but they do see the headlines. They do not notice the climb, but they do see the fall. You'll be amazed with her progress. The little girl who needed to borrow $50 was from High Point, North Carolina. The American Idol singer who was dubbed everything but strong is now a mother of self-assured children, a businesswoman, a book author, and a healer. She is too preoccupied with creating a legacy to give a damn about the rumors that still circulate about her background. It was the reason the moment with Dallas was so impactful. It wasn't noisy, it was authentic and genuine, yet it wasn't fancy. It strikes a distinct chord in a world full of staged smiles and carefully manicured photos. The story of Fantasia is not about perfection. Let me tell you that. It's all about being authentic. Her scars were visible. She gave them a look. She also assisted a lot of people who felt alone by doing this. Fans continued to message her, saying things like, "You gave me hope," or "Your music saved me." Because you don't just inspire, you lead when you take your sorrow and utilize it to your advantage. And she took the lead without ever saying, "Look at me." She simply lived her truth. What distinguishes the story? It's because everything came full circle. In a hospital bed, a young mother once gazed at her infant son, feeling uncertain and afraid. She watched that same youngster, who was healthy and content, get into a car with affection on both sides of him from behind a camera years later. That's fate. Grace is that. The beauty of perseverance is that. The story isn't even finished yet, which is the most absurd aspect. Fantasia continues to flourish, to work, and to astonish the globe. And if we learned anything from this one silent moment with her son, it's that even the strongest individuals don't necessarily have to yell. At times, they simply continue to show up, walk, and love. And she did precisely that. Therefore, simply demonstrate Fantasia's identity the next time someone tries to remind you of her. A legend, a fighter, a mother, and a survivor.